What's good, y'all? It's me, Chris. Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing how rich folks gotta stay out of poor folks' business. But before we get into that, if you like, you can go ahead and check me out on my other social media platforms. Here is my Twitter and my Instagram. And if you're new here, I do commentary on anything that interests me, so you can go ahead and check out some of those recent videos. Before we get into today's topics, I'm going to mention two things. One, I finally got a haircut, y'all. It has been 5 long weeks since I haven't had a haircut. Like, when I'm telling you, the insecurities and the internalized anti-blackness was popping out. Oh my gosh, it was just bringing out so much insecurities. As you know, like, I didn't feel comfortable going to my barbershop when they had reopened. But I am glad to say that since then they've come up with better COVID-19 practices. Everybody's wearing a mask. The barber chairs are more spaced out. You're not allowed to wait unless you're being cut within the next few minutes. So it was definitely a much safer experience. I felt way more comfortable. So shout out to my barber for making it safe and the whole barbershop. Thank you, Jesus, because um, as insecure as I was feel, it's not worth my life going to go get a haircut. Please, like, this is just the way my hair grows out. But I am really happy because it does start to affect all aspects of your life. I was starting to feel like insecure in front of the camera. It was bad, but I told y'all a few weeks ago I was gonna start growing out a beard like Tyler Perry. It was growing out, so I was like, let me try something new. It's the fall, maybe I need a little extra hair for coating. And also, this is a new setup. Daylight saving time, or the departure of daylight saving time, has really fucked up my camera setting and lighting. Like, I just use natural sunlight, but I can't wait for the natural sunlight to illuminate my room. Like, I want to film this relatively early in the morning and get the video out. So this is where we're at. Probably might start to save up to get some type of light so that way I can film in different times of the day. I've been wanting to do this because I would love to like film at nighttime at like 10 p.m. so that way I can have the video up in the morning time. But I have like especially now that daylight saving time is over, I have such a small window to film with like natural sunlight, and right now it's not even like in my field. So this is where we're at with the setup. Hopefully, I can make my face more beautifully visible for y'all in the editing. But this is where we're at for today's video. So for today's video, we're going to be discussing Keke Palmer. If you're not familiar with Keke Palmer, she is a host and an actress. She was best known for her breakout role from Aquila and the Bee. She also did a TV series on Nickelodeon, True Jackson VP. But where you may have seen her as most recently, she was in the Hustlers, the Jennifer Lopez movie last year. She also hosted a television show with Sarah and Michael, and as well she also hosted this year's MTV VMAs. Keke Palmer has done a very successful job of transitioning from child actor to adult actor. We haven't seen her be in any scandals. She is very successful. She stays booked, has constant multiple streams of income. She's gained quite the wealth, which is probably why she decided to say this tweet that we're going to discuss. So Keke Palmer decided to tweet out before the sun could even say good morning to the rest of us. Imagine if your EBT card could only work on healthy items. Creepy eye emoji, creepy eye emoji, creepy eye emoji. To wake up at the crack of dawn to blame poor people for their lack of accessibility to nutrient-dense food and what they choose to eat, it's a no for me, dog. Now, she tried to backpedal and even double down on this original tweet, but we're going to address this initial tweet first. First, I want to say that rich people and our celebrities like stay making sweeping judgments about poor people without coming to the table with the full analysis or even like the bigger picture. So you want poor people on EBT to eat healthy, and one, I'm just not too keen about labeling food as healthy. Healthy is a feeling. Healthy is a feeling of wellness, a feeling good. And there's some foods that are labeled as healthy that do not make some people feel good. It would not bring a feeling of wellness upon them, i.e. nightshades. That's tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, eggplant. That group of vegetables does not bring wellness to people. A lot of times when people eat those, they break out in rashes. Their digestive system is not okay. Some people can't digest meat. I've literally literally met people who literally are intolerant to meat and they're vegetarians, not by choice, but because they had no other option. There's people who have allergies, who are allergic to nuts, seeds, and seafood. All these things that we label as healthy actually do harm to certain people. So one, I'm not too keen about labeling food. Like for me, eating sugar makes me feel good. For others, carbs might make them feel good. Like different kind of foods are going to fuel us differently and we're all going to have different nutrition needs. So for me, the best term that y'all want to label healthy food was what you mean like fruits, vegetables. I think the better term to name that is nutrient dense food. So you would like communities, marginalized, poor communities to have accessibility to nutrient dense food. That should be the language in which we're talking about healthy foods. So you want poor people on EBT to eat nutrient dense food. Okay, are we not looking into food deserts? Are we not discussing redlining, environmental racism? Are we not looking into all the systems that make nutrient dense food less accessible to poor people? Food deserts are low income neighborhoods that have limited access to nutrient dense foods. So instead, you'll commonly see a bunch of fast food restaurants or corner and liquor stores instead of. And I really do believe that those of us who have a car or have a job with good scheduling, or those of us that live like in metropolitan city areas, really take for granted how accessible grocery shopping is. Like it's not enough to tell people who live in food deserts will like just go out and go to the grocery store. It's like, well, how are we going to get there? Do you have a car where you live? Do you have like good, reliable public transportation? Do you have money to get on transportation? Also, who's going to carry all these groceries? Like, these are all the factors and obstacles that people have to consider when they live in a food desert, and why going to a fast food restaurant or the corner store may seem a lot more accessible to them. Also think about like people's jobs and scheduling. I am fortunate. I grew up in a two-parent household. I would say during the 90s and early 2000s when middle class was more of a thing. We were middle class, but my parents, it was three of us, my three brothers. We still only went grocery shopping like once a month. Like that was a lot for my parents to make time in their job schedule, us going to school, us raising us going to church, like to find time to go to the grocery store, such a big thing, more than like once or twice a month, is really a privilege. You're raising children, you're, like I said, going to school, church, your jobs, your other activities. Like going to the grocery store is such a task that it really only afforded us like to be able to go once a month. And then you don't even think about like buying nutrient dense foods. Like the shelf life of fresh vegetables and fresh fruits only lasts like a few days. Like if you want to keep fresh fruits and vegetables in your house, like you have to grocery shop more often throughout the week. Like I know as myself as an adult, like when I want fresh fruits and vegetables, I go to the grocery store like a few times a week, but that's because I have the privilege to do that. That's because it's more accessible. But for a lot of people, that's not. A lot of people, us, like the price is also cheap. The price of vegetables, honestly, to get a box of Cheez-Its is like $3.50. Cheez-Its, you can have that for like a whole entire week. You get three bananas, they start looking like me in 3 days. They start looking like me in 3 days. Like, so you have to take those things into consideration when you're talking about people being able to go grocery shopping. Also, the ableism of it. Like, some people literally can't go to the grocery store. They also literally can't cook. Like, it's exhausting. It takes a lot more. Like, it takes a lot to cook a meal. Have you ever cooked every single day of the week? If you're not disabled in any manner, even that in itself is a task. So you're asking people who probably are working a lot, don't have a lot of time on their hands, who don't have a lot of money, who don't have a lot of accessibility to eat more nutrient dense foods, when you're not even taking into consideration the systems, the obstacles that are in place of being able for them to do that. Instead, you're just shaming and blaming poor people for being able to eat the foods that they have the accessibility to. Like I said, we didn't even take in consideration redlining, which is like the discrimination, denial of resources to people with certain zip codes. So you combine that, and you combine food deserts with red lining, and that keeps these people in these living environments with no assistance and no resources. And let's get into the amount of money that EBT even provides for you is not enough for you to not buy non-perishable items, and not for it's not enough money for you to buy items that will not last long. Last year when I applied for EBT, I was making less than $2,000 a month. In California, I believe that you have to make less than 2,000 to qualify, so they do deem you as needing of these services. My rent was $850 a month. I was making less than $2,000 a month, and EBT gave me a measly amount of $84. $84 a month when I'm making under $2,000 a month, and my rent is $850, not including my phone bill and any other utilities that I was paying. Do you think I'm about to buy vegetables, a bunch of vegetables and a bunch of fruit that's gonna go bad within a week, when this $84 needs to stretch me a whole entire month? Please somebody explain that. Please somebody explain that to Keke, how you think that if only I could buy vegetables with my EBT card, how my vegetables are going to sustain me for a whole entire month. Please. So after many valid criticisms to Keke explaining why the tweet was misguided and from a place of ignorance, she started to backpedal. So she said in this tweet, apologize for thinking that people should get free food. I'm confused with that one. How is it offensive to suggest that people deserve free food on EBT? Because that's all I'm suggesting. And we could talk about that. But that is not what you said. Your initial tweet was addressing the poor people instead of the systems that impact poor people to have to make these kinds of decisions. Because you can get nutrient-dense food on EBT. The question should be, why is it so hard to obtain? That is a question that we should be asking and discussing. So she went back and forth and just kept saying, like, that's not what I said. And I and many others were like, well, fine then. Just apologize, acknowledge that you misspoke and that you were speaking from a place of ignorance and that you will do better. But no. She decides to double down and has joke tweet after joke tweet, wants to put an LOL on everything and a haha on everything. It's just like, you woke up in the morning and decided to enact violence on poor people, and we're having like a serious conversation full of valid criticisms, and instead you want to be like, ha ha ha, and come back with like this toxic positivity. I swear that's like Keke's brand. Is just like, it's just jokes, girl. I'm just a regular ass person. And this is what she said in regards to that. To add, I'm a regular ass person, not an elected official. Please remember that my opinions are just that. Don't put too much value on my opinion because I have no control here. I'm just like you. I'm at work and I'm tweeting. Girl, you is not like me. You is not just a regular ass person. You are a visible celebrity worth $7.5 million with over 2 million Twitter followers and more followers on your other social media platforms. Like, you're just not tweeting. You have a responsibility as a public person with this type of platform. Like, she talks about it all the other time. Like, I've listened to Keke talk, and she's talked about the seriousness of believing black women and speaking out on certain social issues. So she knows the severity and the responsibility that comes with having a public platform. Like, you're not just tweeting out. You're a public figure worth millions and a huge following. Like, your conversations clearly mean something. Like, the conversation on Twitter ignited my whole entire timeline. People were talking about this from many other angles. So no, you're not just a regular person tweeting. If you got a thought, ask Google or text that to your group chat. And even if you were a regular person, this energy goes for you too. You can't be up here tweeting recklessly, violently, ignorant things, talking about, I'm just having a conversation. No, you talk and have a conversation with your friends, in your DMs, in your group chats. You want to, and if you want to ask a question, that's fine too. If you're a celebrity and you want to ask questions, that's okay too. But that is not what Keke was doing, and she was being very disingenuous, and she just kept doubling down and never would acknowledge her first initial tweet as being violent and ignorant. Rich people stay trying to police poor people's behavior. I also think Keke had a hard time understanding like who is considered rich. Like, girl, you. Everybody pulled up her receipt. She is worth $7.5 million, and she kept saying, "Girl, don't believe numbers on the internet." Do you know all celebrities say that? And even if these numbers aren't accurate, even if you take away 6 million, even if you take away what money is paid to her team, her worth, and I'm sure even if she still has $1 million, girl, you are rich. That is a rich person. So Keke, with all this money, if she was really concerned about the health of poor people and wanted poor people to have nutrient dense foods, like, she would use her money and her resources, and she would make nutrient dense food accessible to poor people. That's what she would do. She would not use her platform to have like these mindless conversations when you could do that shit in your group chat. Chat with your rich friends. Come up with solutions with them. They got all the money and all the resources and know all the people. Us poor people, we doing what we can, honestly. So you want to give some assistance to us? Give us some money and give us some resources and give us some connections to people that you have that we will never be able to have connected to. I'm not saying that rich people can't speak, but if you don't have the range to discuss this conversation, then you just need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. You need to give money, and you need to point us to people who do have the range to discuss these conversations. Stop centering yourself in your fight for liberation of black people, because that's all of what it is. It's like your visibility and your wealth does not give you an automatic pass to publicly speak about systemic issues. You have no idea. You have no idea. I'm gonna spend my EBT on some hot Cheetos and cinnamon rolls because I fucking can, and because it is not my fault that I'm in this. It's because of systems. We talk about this. Stop blaming people and start looking at the systems in which people have to live under. That is where our focus is, okay? That's all the thoughts that I have on this conversation. I would love to hear what y'all think about. Did y'all hear about this? You guys get to chime in. I know y'all love Keke. I love Keke too. She's very talented, very engaging. I love her work, but sis got to start reading, got to start talking to poor people, because these takes like this, these conversations, they're just not it. They're just not it. But that's all I have for today. Leave your comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the Crispy Noah family, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.